Welcome! As I mentioned in my previous video, Ukraine was a huge mess during World War I, and the situation did not improve after the armistice either. Previously, I had no idea what really happened there. I knew that different armies marched through Kiev, but that was it. With these two episodes, I am enlightening myself, and hopefully you as well. Let's get started. In November 1918, the Ukraine People's Republic, under the leadership of the Directorate, was back in power in Kiev. It was increasingly dominated by Simon Petyura, but at the same time, a West Ukrainian People's Republic was declared in Galicia, which seceded from Austria-Hungary. The two entities merged in January, but this was a symbolic move, and both were threatened by new enemies. French, Greek, and Italian troops landed in Odessa. Romania was also hostile, and while some sort of agreement was soon found with these two, more dangerous armies showed up on the scene. The Bolsheviks invaded and soon took Kiev, so the Directorate fled to Vinnytsia. A second Soviet-Ukrainian government was formed in Kharkov. It moved to Kiev the next month, but the Red Army marched all the way to Odessa, which the Entente troops abandoned. A newly independent Poland claimed Galicia for itself, relying on an uprising in Lemberg, which the West Ukrainian army besieged. Ukraine kept a small strip of land between these two hostile nations, but it would survive for now, thanks to the Whites that launched a major attack against the Reds in the south. We should also mention the anarchists, who were the only participant that did not commit anti-Semitic acts. They allied themselves with the Bolsheviks to expand their territory around Huliapol, but this warm relationship did not last long. As the Reds pillaged and repressed the local population, they soon turned against each other, just when General Anton Denikin's White Russian forces defeated Soviet 11th Army in June and took the Kuban, approaching Ukraine. In the meantime, at the Paris Peace Conference, the Entente allowed Poland to annex Galicia and destroy West Ukraine. After this, 50,000 West Ukrainians joined the Directorate, which now had a more experienced and battle-hardened army. It was now headed by Petyura as chairman, who signed a ceasefire with the Entente and Poland, securing its back and moving the capital to Kamenets-Podilsky. His attack was launched, but it failed to reclaim Kiev. The capital, along with Kharkov, was then taken by the Whites instead in August, who continued their advance and even threatened Moscow. Denikin's White troops also defeated the anarchists, who retreated all the way to Uman. They briefly cooperated with Nikifor Grigoriev's Green Peasant Army, then assassinated him when his forces committed anti-Semitic acts, and temporarily allied themselves with the Directorate. Even though most of Ukraine was now in the hands of the Whites, they also brutalized the population and became very unpopular. In the fall, their offensive against Moscow collapsed. General Denikin's forces retreated south, but they were also beaten by the anarchists who reclaimed their original territory around Huliapol. By December, the Reds once again took Kiev and most of Ukraine, while the Whites briefly chased out the anarchists from the south, but Huliapol was soon also taken by the Bolsheviks. From January 1920, another round of the Red Terror started with dekulakization, food rationing, requisitioning, and the killing of hostages if unreported weapons were found in the villages. Roughly 200,000 peasants were killed, but they retaliated, and about 1,000 Bolshevik officials were killed in the area just in 1920. In the meantime, realizing that he didn't have the necessary military power to reconquer Kiev, Petyura and his Directorate moved even closer to the Poles and Józef Pilsudski, who was reorganizing his army. As the remaining White forces retreated to the Crimea, a Polish-Ukrainian military agreement was signed. Ukraine recognized Polish rule in Galicia, and in return, they would fight together against the Reds. A new offensive was launched in April. The Polish army was joined by two Ukrainian divisions. In early May, Kiev was taken, but it soon became clear that the two allies didn't share the same vision. Pilsudski envisioned a Polish-Ukrainian Commonwealth under Polish leadership, while Petliura was still trying to maintain Ukraine's independence. In subsequent battles, though, his forces gradually evaporated. The conflict turned into a Polish-Soviet war, with both sides fighting for the territory of Ukraine, but not for its independence. The Bolsheviks soon counterattacked under the leadership of Mikhail Tukhachevsky. By the end of May, they retook Kiev from the Poles, along with most of Ukraine in the next 2 months. Polish Third Army kept retreating. It managed to break out of encirclement, but it was unable to launch even smaller counterattacks. Its artillery remained strong, but losses, particularly among officers, were heavy, and morale sank to new lows. An offensive was launched in late July, but it was aborted as Pilsudski had to focus on defending Lemberg and Warsaw. In August 1920, the Polish army defeated the Reds near Warsaw. Yet another counteroffensive began, during which most of the disputed territories were taken by the Poles. The Bolshevik leadership, seeing that the civil war ruined the economy and their rule was still being threatened on multiple fronts, started seeking peace. They made proposals in September. The Poles countered with their own, so in mid-October, an armistice was signed between Poland on the one hand and Soviet Russia and Soviet Ukraine on the other. Negotiations continued. A final peace treaty was not yet concluded. In the east, the anarchists began a new guerrilla war against the Reds, abolishing war communism and giving back the requisitioned food to the peasants in the areas they retook. When a new white attack from the Crimea was launched in June, the two enemies once again joined forces and pushed back the whites, who finally evacuated Crimea in November. The anarchists reorganized the economy and their territory with free Soviets, libertarian schools, and theater plays, but the region was devastated. There was not much hope of a quick recovery. Also in November, Petliura's forces, who were not happy with the armistice, started planning a new attack against the Reds, who now controlled most of Ukraine. However, they were quickly beaten. The army's 23,000 soldiers were pushed into Polish territory. The Ukrainian People's Republic was now completely beaten. Back in the east, Red Terror was once again implemented. Suspected anarchists were rounded up and shot. Local administration of Ukrainian villages was taken over by the Bolsheviks, whose secret police, the Cheka, continued hunting their former allies. In the next few months, the anarchist insurgent army moved north, before returning to Katerinoslav, their home turf, in February 1921. Once Lenin implemented his new economic policy, many peasants lost the will to fight. The insurgent forces were weakened. Their leader, Nestor Makhno, soon fled to Romania. A peace treaty between Poland and the two Soviet states was finally signed in March 1921. It ended the alliance between Polish and Ukrainian forces. Poland kept Galicia and the western part of Ukraine, while the rest remained under Bolshevik rule. The Directorate still had smaller military forces. These launched raids against Ukrainian territory, but their largest section was finally surrounded and destroyed in November 1921. The Ukrainian Independence War, which turned into a Polish-Soviet war, was now over, but further attempts would take place in the following decades. Thank you for watching. See you next time.